Jake, we need to talk about your beard situation. Site foreman Dennis Crawford stood at the entrance of the construction trailer, his hard hat under one arm. Jake Morrison looked up from the blueprints he'd been reviewing, electrical plans for the new hospital wing they were building in Birmingham, Alabama. "What about it?" Jake asked, his Alabama drawl thick as molasses. "It's getting too long. Safety hazard. You need to trim it down or shave it off." Jake's hand went unconsciously to his beard. Full, neatly trimmed, about 2 inches long. He'd been growing it for 3 years, ever since he converted to Islam. "Dennis, you know this is religious. We've been through this before. And I'm telling you again, safety regulations. Hard hat needs to fit properly, beard interferes with that. Have you ever been told your faith is a safety hazard?" Jake Morrison was 28 years old, born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. His granddaddy had worked construction, his daddy had worked construction. Jake had been swinging hammers since he was 16. He was as Alabama as college football and sweet tea. He was also Muslim, had been for 3 years, ever since his army buddy Omar had given him a Quran during their deployment in Kuwait. Jake had read it out of curiosity, found truth he'd been searching for his whole life. Converting was easy. Living as a white Muslim in the deep South, that was the hard part. "Dennis, I've been wearing this beard for 3 years. My hard hat fits fine, my respirator fits fine. I've passed every safety inspection. This isn't about safety." Dennis's expression hardened. "You calling me a liar, Morrison?" "I'm saying you've never had a problem with Bobby's beard, and his is longer than mine." Bobby Hutchins, the site's senior carpenter, wore a bushy beard that would make a lumberjack jealous. Nobody had ever asked him to trim it, but Bobby's beard was for Duck Dynasty reasons, not religious ones. "Bobby's different." "How?" "He just is." The unspoken truth hung between them. Bobby's beard was acceptable because it fit the local culture. Jake's beard made people uncomfortable because it represented Islam. "I'm not shaving it," Jake said quietly. "It's protected under Title VII, religious accommodation. I've got rights." "Then maybe you need to find another job site," Dennis said, turning to leave. "Think about it over the weekend." Jake watched him go, anger and frustration building. This was the 3rd time in 6 months Dennis had targeted his beard. The 2nd time he'd been randomly selected for additional drug testing. The 1st time he'd been moved from lead electrician to general labor. All because of his beard, all because he was Muslim. But here's what Dennis didn't know yet. Jake had been documenting everything. Every biased comment, every discriminatory action, every time he was treated differently than his Christian coworkers. And Jake knew someone who could help. Monday morning, Jake drove to the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 136 Hall before heading to the job site. Union steward Marcus Wilson was already there, coffee in hand. "Jake Morrison," Marcus said, grinning. "Don't usually see you this early. What's going on?" Marcus was a black man in his 50s, been with the union for 30 years. He'd seen every kind of workplace discrimination there was. "Need to talk about a problem at the Baptist medical site," Jake said, sitting down heavily. "Dennis giving you trouble again?" "3rd time about my beard. Says it's a safety issue, but Bobby Hutchins has had a beard twice as long for 5 years, and nobody says nothing." Marcus leaned back, his expression shifting from friendly to serious. "Bobby's beard is cultural. Yours is religious. That changes things legally." "I know that. That's why I'm here." Jake pulled out his phone and opened a notes app. "I've been documenting every time Dennis has targeted me differently than other workers, every comment about my beard, every reassignment that doesn't make sense." Marcus scrolled through the documentation, his eyebrows rising. "Jake, this is really thorough. Dates, times, witnesses. You even noted weather conditions and safety records. I'm an electrician. I know how to document job sites. This isn't job site documentation. This is a discrimination case. Marcus pulled out a business card. I'm calling our union attorney. This stops now. You won't believe what happened in the next 48 hours. By Tuesday afternoon, IBEW attorney Sarah Chen had reviewed Jake's documentation and sent a formal letter to Crawford Construction. Our client, Jake Morrison, has been subjected to religious discrimination in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and Alabama state employment law. Mr. Morrison's beard is worn for religious reasons and poses no legitimate safety concern, as evidenced by 3 years of exemplary safety records. Demanding he shave or face termination constitutes religious discrimination. We demand immediate cessation of discriminatory practices and formal religious accommodation. Dennis Crawford received the letter Tuesday at 3 p.m. By 3:30 p.m., he'd called Jake into the trailer. You went to the union over a damn beard? You gave me no choice, Jake said calmly. This is religious discrimination, Dennis. You know it, I know it, and now the union knows it. Religious, Dennis scoffed. Jake, you're from Tuscaloosa. You grew up Baptist. You play high school football. You ain't no more Muslim than I am. There was the real issue. I converted 3 years ago. That makes me just as Muslim as someone born into it. You can't just become Muslim. That's not how it works. That's a race thing, an Arab thing, not a white boy from Alabama thing. Jake felt his anger rising, but kept his voice steady. Islam is a religion, not a race. There are Muslims of every color, including white, including Southern, including from Tuscaloosa. Well, it sure as hell doesn't sound right when you say Assalamu alaikum with that accent, Dennis snapped. That's not my problem. That's yours. Dennis's face went red. You're suspended, pending investigation into your attitude and willingness to comply with safety regulations. Suspended for what? Defending my religious rights? Suspended for insubordination. Get off my site. Jake left, but he wasn't worried. Dennis had just made a massive mistake. Retaliatory suspension after a discrimination complaint? The union was going to have a field day. Wednesday morning, Jake was supposed to be suspended, but he showed up to the job site anyway, not to work, but to picket, where union rules allowed it. He stood at the site entrance with a simple sign, Crawford Construction, Religious Discrimination. Marcus Wilson stood beside him. So did 3 other union members who heard about the situation. You don't have to do this, Jake told them. Yes, we do, Marcus replied, because today it's your beard. Tomorrow it's my skin color. Next week it's somebody's hijab. We draw the line here. By 7 a.m., when the first workers arrived, there were 12 union members picketing. By 8 a.m., 23. The workers arriving for their shifts faced a choice: cross the picket line or stand with Jake. Bobby Hutchins, the carpenter with the bushy beard that nobody questioned, was one of the first to arrive. He looked at Jake, looked at the picket line, looked at the construction site. Then he parked his truck and joined the picket line. Bobby, Jake was shocked. You don't have to. Shut up, Morrison, Bobby said gruffly. Dennis is wrong. I've been watching him mess with you for months. Didn't say nothing because I'm a coward, but I ain't crossing this line. But you're not even Muslim. Don't have to be Muslim to know discrimination when I see it. My daddy marched with Dr. King in Selma. He taught me that when they come for one of us, they're coming for all of us. Bobby's words hit like a thunderclap. Here was a white Southern carpenter with a Duck Dynasty beard standing up for a Muslim electrician's right to wear a religious beard. By 9 a.m., 47 workers had joined the picket line. The entire electrical crew, half the carpenters, a dozen laborers. The construction site, a $14 million hospital wing project, ground to a complete halt. Dennis Crawford watched from the trailer window, his phone ringing constantly. The general contractor, the hospital, the project manager, all demanding to know why work had stopped. By 10 a.m., the local news had arrived. Channel 6 set up cameras at the site entrance. The reporter, a young woman named Amanda Torres, interviewed Jake on camera.
Mr. Morrison, can you explain what's happening here? Jake's Alabama accent was thick and genuine as he spoke. I'm a union electrician, been doing this work for 12 years. 3 years ago, I converted to Islam. Part of my faith is wearing a beard. My foreman has been harassing me about it for months, even though it don't affect my work or safety. Yesterday, after I filed a discrimination complaint, he suspended me. So here we are. You're from Alabama originally? Born and raised in Tuscaloosa. Granddaddy worked construction, daddy worked construction, I work construction. I just happen to be Muslim too. The reporter turned to Marcus Wilson. And you're the union steward? That's right. When one of our members faces discrimination, we all face discrimination. We stand together or we fall separately. The camera panned across the picket line. White workers, black workers, young workers, old workers, all standing together. Bobby Hutchins, with his enormous beard, spoke up. I ain't Muslim, but if they can fire Jake for his beard, they can fire me for mine. This ain't about religion, it's about power, and we ain't letting them have it. The segment aired on the noon news, then the evening news, then it went viral. Alabama construction workers walk out in support of Muslim colleague. The optics were perfect. White Southern workers with thick accents defending a Muslim worker's religious rights. It broke every stereotype about the South, about construction workers, about who supports religious freedom. By Thursday morning, Crawford Construction's legal team was in panic mode. The work stoppage was costing $47,000 per day. The bad publicity was threatening future contracts. The union was threatening to extend the walkout to other Crawford sites. Dennis Crawford was removed as site foreman by noon. By Friday, Jake Morrison was sitting in a conference room with union attorneys, Crawford construction executives, and representatives from Baptist Medical Center. The settlement terms were read aloud. Number 1, Jake Morrison reinstated with full back pay. Number 2, formal religious accommodation policy implemented company-wide. Number 3, mandatory discrimination training for all management. Number 4, $85,000 settlement to Jake Morrison for emotional distress and retaliation. Number 5, public apology from Crawford Construction. Number 6, Dennis Crawford terminated for cause. But Jake had one more demand. I want Bobby Hutchins recognized for standing up for me. He put his job on the line for me. That matters. The company agreed to give Bobby a commendation and a $5,000 bonus for exemplary demonstration of workplace solidarity values. The Baptist Medical site completed on schedule, with Jake Morrison leading the electrical team. His beard remained untrimmed. Nobody questioned it. Crawford Construction's new religious accommodation policy became a model. Other construction companies in Alabama adopted similar policies. The Alabama chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, used Jake's case as a training example. But the real change was cultural. Jake had proven something important. You could be Southern, white, working class, and Muslim. The identities didn't conflict, they combined. He started a small Facebook group, Southern Muslims. It had 3 members at first. Within 6 months, it had 847 members from across the South. White converts, black Muslims, immigrant Muslims, all sharing the experience of being Muslim in a region that assumed Muslims didn't exist. Bobby Hutchins became an unexpected ally. He attended several CARE events with Jake, speaking about the importance of cross-faith solidarity. I'm a good old boy from Alabama, Christian, conservative, love my trucks and my guns, but I'll be damned if I let anybody discriminate against somebody for their faith. That ain't American, that ain't Christian, and it sure as hell ain't right. Marcus Wilson used Jake's case in union training sessions. This is what solidarity looks like. Not just protecting people who look like us or believe like us, protecting everybody's rights, because an injury to one is an injury to all. The IBEW Local 136 put Jake's story in their newsletter. Other locals across the country read it. Muslim construction workers from California to New York reached out, sharing their own stories, finding courage in Jake's example. Jake Morrison stood on a newly completed construction site, a mosque in Montgomery, Alabama. He'd led the electrical work, a job that felt deeply meaningful. The imam, a Syrian immigrant, approached him after the final inspection. "Brother Jake, we cannot thank you enough, not just for your excellent work, but for your courage. Your story has inspired many in our community." Jake's Alabama accent was as thick as ever. "Well, I appreciate that, but I was just standing up for my rights. Didn't expect it to become this whole thing."
That's how change happens, the imam said. One person refusing to back down. One group of coworkers choosing solidarity. One story that shows the world we're not so different after all. Jake thought about that. He'd never set out to be an activist or a symbol. He just wanted to work construction and practice his faith without being harassed. But by refusing to hide, by documenting discrimination, by standing up even when it was uncomfortable, he'd changed more than just his own situation. He'd changed what people thought was possible. A white guy from Tuscaloosa with an Alabama drawl saying "Assalamu alaikum" and meaning it. Working construction, wearing a beard, practicing Islam openly. It shouldn't have been revolutionary, but in the Deep South, in construction culture, it was. "You know what the funny part is?" Jake told the imam. "People still tell me I don't sound Muslim, like there's supposed to be a Muslim accent, like Islam is supposed to sound foreign." "What do you tell them?" Jake grinned. "I tell them Islam sounds like whatever language you speak. In my case, that's Southern American English, and there ain't nothing wrong with that." The imam laughed. "Alhamdulillah, you are proof that Islam belongs everywhere, including Alabama." "Especially Alabama," Jake corrected. "Because if it can work here, it can work anywhere." 5 years after the walkout, Jake's story had become part of construction union lore. The Morrison standard, they called it. The principle that religious accommodation wasn't optional, it was mandatory. Crawford Construction had become one of the most diverse construction companies in Alabama, not because they wanted to be woke, but because they'd learned that discrimination was expensive and solidarity was profitable. Jake was promoted to project manager. His beard, now graying slightly at 33, was just another part of who he was. Nobody questioned it. Nobody harassed him. The new site managers knew his story and didn't want to repeat Dennis Crawford's mistakes. But Jake's favorite development was personal. 3 other white Southern construction workers had converted to Islam in the years since the walkout. They had all cited Jake's example, proof that you could be authentically Southern and authentically Muslim at the same time. "You made it possible," one told him. "I'd been interested in Islam for years, but I thought I'd have to choose between my culture and my faith. You showed me I didn't." Jake met with them monthly, a small study group that discussed Islam, construction, and how to navigate both worlds. Bobby Hutchins attended sometimes, not to convert, but to learn. He'd say, "I'm staying Christian, but I'll be damned if I don't understand what my brother Jake believes in." The friendship between Jake and Bobby became legendary on job sites across Alabama. The Muslim electrician and the Christian carpenter, working side by side, defending each other's rights, proving that solidarity transcended faith. "People think the South is all backwards and bigoted," Bobby said in an interview for a union magazine. "And yeah, we got our problems, but we also got something special. We take care of our own, and Jake Morrison is our own, always has been, always will be." Jake's son, born a year after the walkout, was named Yusuf Morrison. 3 years old now, with his daddy's Alabama accent already forming. "Daddy, why you got a beard?" Jake asked Yusuf one evening. "Because I'm Muslim, buddy." "Like me?" "That's right, like you." "Can I have a beard when I'm big?" Jake laughed. "You can have whatever kind of beard you want. Or no beard. It's between you and Allah." "Will people be mean about it?" Jake thought about Dennis Crawford, about the harassment, about the walkout, about everything that had changed because a group of workers decided discrimination wasn't acceptable. "Maybe," Jake said honestly. "But there'll also be people like Uncle Bobby who stand up for you. People like Uncle Marcus. People who believe in doing what's right even when it's hard." "Like you did, Daddy?" "Like a lot of people did. I just started it. They finished it." Jake Morrison's story wasn't about one Muslim man winning a discrimination case. It was about what happens when solidarity transcends identity. When Bobby Hutchins, a white Christian carpenter, stood up for Jake's religious beard, he didn't stop being Christian. He didn't stop being Southern. He just chose solidarity over comfort. When the union workers walked off the job, they weren't all Muslim. Most weren't. But they understood that protecting one worker's rights protected everyone's rights. An injury to one is an injury to all wasn't just a union slogan. It was a lived principle. Jake didn't defeat discrimination because he was powerful. He defeated it because he documented it, challenged it, and found allies who believed in justice more than they believed in tradition. The IBEW used Jake's case in training materials across the country. The Morrison case, religious accommodation and union solidarity. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission cited Jake's settlement in guidance documents about religious discrimination in the workplace. 3 construction companies in Alabama revised their policies to explicitly protect religious beards, hijabs, and other faith-based accommodations. But the most meaningful impact was personal. Muslim construction workers across the South reached out to Jake, sharing their stories, finding courage, knowing they weren't alone. "You showed us we belong here," one wrote. "Not despite being Southern, but because we're Southern. This is our home too." Jake framed that message and hung it in his office. Because that was the real victory. Not the settlement money, not the policy changes. The victory was proving that Islam had a place in Alabama, that Muslim didn't mean foreign, that you could say y'all and inshallah in the same breath and mean both equally. Jake Morrison, construction electrician from Tuscaloosa, Muslim with an Alabama drawl, had rewritten what people thought was possible. One beard, one walkout, one community of workers choosing justice. That's how change happens. Have you faced religious discrimination at work? Have you been told your faith doesn't fit your appearance or accent? Jake's lesson? Document everything. Build alliances. Stand your ground. Solidarity wins. You don't need to be powerful. You need to be persistent and find people who believe in justice. Share this if you believe religious freedom belongs to everyone, including white guys from Alabama.